Welcome into another episode of live best ball draft coverage here on the FFPC YouTube channel. Remember to like, subscribe, get notified, all those YouTube things, and follow along as we have Terp's third FFPC Best Ball Tournament Championship draft tonight. We're going to be posting the draft board so you can follow along shortly. As a reminder, if you want to get in the FFPC main event, it's a $1 million grand prize. For the first time in season-long fantasy football history. You can draft starting now, and the last month or so, the slow drafts have been going. The live drafts pop off this Friday. Of course, our Football Guys Players Championship, $500,000 grand prize. Plenty of those drafts popping off every day. If you want to get in on this, it's only $125, $200,000 grand prize. Superflex Best Ball Tournament 2 tournament is out, still a $35 entry, $100,000, or beg your pardon, a $10,000 grand prize. And of course, Dynasty Startups. Closed 12-team leagues, all available at myffpc.com. Let's bring him in right now. You follow him on Twitter at Dave Terp. Dave, welcome in. You have been it's been a flurry of best ball activity for you. Friday night with the GOAT District, last night, and now tonight, man. You feel like you're zoning in. You're getting dialed in for all the big money here coming up over the next couple of weeks.
August is here. It's time to get ready. I mean, I'm going to be doing a ton of these coming up. Just getting ready for the bigger main event drafts with the big money on the line coming up. So I'm excited. Picking 9 tonight, so we'll have plenty of options. Picked 10 last night. I think it was 10 on Friday. So we're right in the same range. We're going to try to mix it up a little bit, but don't expect to see Derrick Henry going at number 9.
Yeah, so that was my question here to kick things off, and I'll bring everybody in here to check the live draft board. But when you're picking this late and this often in this spot, Terp, do you find yourself trying to vary things up early on in the draft?
Of course. My plan is to probably get somewhere in the 15 range of these drafts. So I want to try to make sure I'm different, especially early on. I don't want to get stuck. I mean, obviously there's guys I like more than others, but I don't want to get stuck. God forbid something were to happen injury-wise, or just like the freak stuff that happens during the regular season. So I try to keep, I have my guys that I draft probably 4, 5, 6 times, but I try to mix it up as much as possible. And then certain guys I just don't touch no matter what.
Okay, so you're looking at the 9 spot here. What have you been doing with the 9 and 10 spot and even the 7 spot in the Best Ball Tournament and Football Guys Players Championship with your drafts lately?
The last 2 nights, or last 2 times I picked from 9 and 10, we started Barkley, the one on Friday, and then Stephon Diggs on last night. So I can see both of those guys being in the running. There's somebody that usually isn't here yet, but there's a possibility. Hold on one second. There's a guy who's usually gone by now that we'll see if he makes it, and might make it for a little first-time thing. He's a guy that I'm not usually on, but did he just get taken? He did, so forget that idea.
Was it Kelsey that you were looking at?
It was Kelsey. I'm not a Kelsey guy, but at 9, I feel like it's good value. So here right now, it's coming down to Austin Eckler or Dalvin Cook. I don't really see another option that I really like at this spot. So I have Dalvin Cook, I believe, twice already. So my pick here will be Austin Eckler. And let's get this started.
You have a lot of Eckler shares already, Terp, this year?
I actually don't have that many. Last year, he was my guy. I said before the season started that he would be the number 1 overall fantasy player. He was second. Sorry, I was wrong. But I don't have a ton this year. I just like a couple guys a little bit better. I'm not saying he's a fade or anything like that, but he's definitely a guy that, with that offense, it's hard not to get some exposure to him.
We have seen over the course of the last couple of weeks, Mark Andrews going ahead of Travis Kelce, and maybe 1 out of every 4 drafts, I would say, roughly. Maybe you'd be able to weigh in better than that than I could. But if you're picking at a spot like you are, 7, 8, 9, 10, Andrews goes in the early to mid part of the first round. Is that like an automatic, like, okay, if Kelsey's there, I'm taking him? Is that sort of the approach that you have to have?
I feel like if you're doing a bunch of these, you have to get like something like that happens. Like if you're sitting at the guy right before me, I feel like it's almost an automatic pick to take Kelce. He doesn't fall that far. It's usually a 1, top 5, top 6, maybe a 7th, but he usually doesn't get this far down. So to get a value like that in the first round it's hard not to pass up, especially with the FFPC scoring being what it is.
You said you were deciding between Eckler and Cook. Why did Najee Harris not enter the conversation for you here in this format?
He's one of the guys in the first round I'm just not overly exposed to. I like the player. Something about the team this year. I know he's the only guy, and he got worked into the ground last year. I just don't think he's going to catch as many passes this year. That offense, especially the quarterback position, worries me. So I'm just not, with all these other options that are here. Najee Harris he's not in Derrick Henry territory, but he's close in the first round.
Derrick Henry's actually slipped to the late first. Sometimes, obviously, he wasn't picked tonight here in the first round. He's still available in the second.
Hill. Wow.
Are you? Yeah, and we'll talk about Tyreek Hill in a second because this is an interesting pick. Are you surprised to see Henry slip the way he's been slipping in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament?
No, I mean he's such a tough guy to look at this year because everybody that I've talked to, not saying everybody, mostly everybody that I've talked to in the higher stakes leagues, they're fading Henry. They're not on Henry. They're not taking Henry unless he falls to like a supreme value, which he's fell in some drafts. I've seen drafts when he's fallen into the middle second round. He won't be for me just because he's one of my major fades this year. So I'm not going to, put an exposure here to him when I don't really have to. Could he be a monster and put up the numbers he's put up a couple of years ago and on pace what he was doing last year before he got hurt? Of course. He's that talented, but he's not a guy that I'm going to be looking at.
Tyreek Hill at the 201 tonight. This is way ahead of his ADP in this format. And shout out to Fantasy Mojo at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter, fantasymojo.com. Darren Armani, who is the godfather of the pros versus Joes, obviously puts together all the ADP we talk about on this program, on this channel. Tyreek Hill, over the course of the last 5 days, is a 212 pick. He goes at the 201 tonight to Team 12. So, Terp, this gets into the whole get your guys theory, right? Because Tyreek Hill was not going to make it back to Team 12. If you wanted him, he had to take him here in the second round because he wasn't getting him in the late third. How do you fall in on that when you're really in love with a player? You want to get him in as many drafts as possible, but then the ADP and your draft slot doesn't dictate it. Is it a tough sell? Is it a tough thing? Like, you know what? I got to kill my baby here. I can't take him. And maybe I'll get him in the next draft. How do you handle something like that?
Well, a guy like Tyreek Hill, I always said, like, in any draft you get into, yeah, of course you have to draft based on value. But if you have Tyreek Hill ranked in top 5 receivers, why would you not take him? What's the reasoning not to take him?
Right.
Do I like the pick? No. Would I ever make the pick? No. But he's not coming back to you there's 0% chance he's coming back to you. If you're that high on him and you think he's a top 5, top 3 receiver, in some people's eyes, you have to take the guy, especially at 12. I mean, you have no option. It's not like if you're sitting in the middle of the draft, it might be like a small chance. At 12, there's 0% chance Tyreek Hill's coming back. So go get your guy. I wouldn't take him, but
if you believe in your guy, you got to get your guy.
Go get him. If you got to push him up a little bit, it's not that crazy. It's not like you're pushing up 2-3 rounds. Realistically, you're probably pushing up a full round.
And we stopped talking ADP when the first kickoff is kicked in week 1. That's when
1,000%. All that stuff goes out the door.
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell us a little bit about your second round pick? How difficult was it here, Terp, as you were at the 204? You ended up going running back, DeAndre Swift in the second round.
It really was an easy pick. I had 2 guys in there, CeeDee Lamb and DeAndre Swift. It was either going to be one of those 2. There really wasn't anybody else in consideration. I had a little tickle maybe to get some Kyle Pitts because I feel like every place I'm drafted from, I keep missing him. So that was a long shot consideration. But DeAndre Swift, I have him ranked as my 4th running back this year. So I have no issues taking him here. Obviously, it's a great value based off my board. I have, I think, 2 shares of him already so far in drafts. So it was a no-brainer. It was either him or CeeDee Lamb. I don't have any CeeDee Lamb yet, so I would have preferred him just for, to get some exposure to him in this contest. But I'm happy with DeAndre Swift. No worries whatsoever. It's a good start, and it gives me a lot of options.
Yeah, it does. It definitely gives you some flexibility here. 20 picks in here, and I'm kind of curious to Austin Eckler in the first, DeAndre Swift in the second. How big are Isaiah Spiller and Jamal Williams looming for you when you get to the mid rounds of this draft?
We talked about this last time we were on. I don't believe in handcuffs as same team handcuffs. I just never will get behind that mentality. you're banking on pretty much somebody to get hurt. And yeah, obviously, if Swift goes down and I have Jamal Williams, that's great. But you saw last year when Swift got hurt, Jamal Williams was the guy, but then he wasn't the guy really quickly because he got hurt. So there's no guarantee that, when these guys go down, that the guy behind him is even guaranteed to be the guy. I mean, Alexander Madison, Tony Pollard. There's a couple other guys that I could name off the top of my head, but everybody else, there are all questions surrounding them. So to me, I'd rather get somebody else's handcuff and in a format like this, hope for one of their guys go down rather than mine.
Terp, first question from the chat tonight comes in from Aiden. He wants to know, he knows you're not a Derrick Henry guy, but in what scenario are you taking Derrick Henry this year? If he falls to the super late second and you're drafting there, would you take him there? At what point does Derrick Henry become part of the Dave Terpoilli franchise?
The only way that I would take Derrick Henry is if he fell to a spot that I'm different from everybody else. Like if I could figure out a way to get a McCaffrey Henry or a Jonathan Taylor Henry, like something like that, Cooper Kupp Henry, because my guess is in this contest, you're not going to see any of those.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that Henry would get on my team, if I could put him in a second round value that he would fall to me, that would make me different from everybody else. That, it's all about construction. We talk about it all the time. Obviously, drafting the right players is most important, but if you can tell me I could start off with like a Henry and McCaffrey, I know nobody else has it, very likely. So I'll take chances with that.
We are through the first 2 rounds of this FFPC Best Ball Tournament draft tonight. And through 2 rounds, out of the first 24 picks, 13 of them have been running backs. Now, Terp, you took 2 running backs to start off your team in this draft tonight. Does this make you feel better or worse about loading up on receivers, maybe a tight end or a quarterback here coming up, knowing that a lot of these teams are going to be pounding receivers before it gets back to you in the third?
I mean, I'm very excited about it. I didn't expect all these running backs to go, especially some of them as early as they did. We know I'm an ETN guy, but that's probably one of the earliest I've seen him go recently. Kamara starting to move back up. So, I mean, you're going to see a run on receivers, but there's a ton of good ones coming up, and I should be able to get 1 or 2 and possibly a tight end coming up. Let me see. 1 second.
Right now, while Terp is looking at this, ladies and gentlemen, through the first 2 rounds of this draft, Terp is on deck right now. We have 3 tight ends off the board through 2.5 rounds. We only have 1 quarterback off the board. The Stephon Diggs owner at 7 tonight did not get the opportunity to stack Josh Allen with him because Team 3 ended up adding Josh Allen to his squad with Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara. He gets Josh Allen there. So that is the only quarterback we're looking at off the board. The 12th receiver just went off the board to Team 6 at the 306 tonight, and Michael Pittman. That is the only team thus far to start with 3 straight receivers. We haven't seen anybody else start off with 3 of the same position here tonight, as Terp is on deck right now. Obviously, Austin Eckler in the first round, DeAndre Swift in the second round, too. A couple of comments in the chat room right now. Dave Gladstone is talking about the good value on Aaron Jones at the 304, which I happen to agree with there. That's fantastic.
I have not seen him fall that far.
No, and it's rare. So that was really good value, obviously. And I think you can make the case that he got good value on Mixon. Team 4 did too at the 209. Travis Etienne, we already pointed out, at the 212 tonight. Now you are on the clock here, Terp. What are you thinking here? Eckler, Swift. Now who is it in the third?
I'm going to go get my guy. I probably could wait on him, but I'm fine with the other guys that are coming back. I'm trying to add as much Cortland Sutton as possible, so it might be a little bit of a, reach a little earlier, but I don't really care. He's my guy. I could see him easily finishing in the top 3 overall this year, especially with the Tim Patrick injury. Sign me up for as much Cortland Sutton as I can get.
Couple of things to point out here. Cortland Sutton, according to the ADP from FantasyMojo.com, normally goes as wide receiver 16. Terp gets him at wide receiver 14 tonight. Normally goes on average at the 406 tonight. 406 on average. Terp gets him tonight at the 309. And I think you make the case here, like you're trying to get your guys. There's a very realistic possibility Sutton does not make it back to you here in the 4th round. So if you like him, trying to add some value and shares to your portfolio, Sutton makes a lot of sense here. Can you tell us a little bit about why Sutton is such a better pick for you, even at this ADP, than Jerry Jeudy this year, Dave?
I mean, he's the alpha. Everybody that knows Denver and knows Russell Wilson, people keep trying to say they're going to, be 50-50, run the ball. I just don't see it happening. They brought Russ there. They paid the farm to get him. They're going to throw the ball a ton. And the Tim Patrick injury, is it big for the team? Of course. But that only opens up options for Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton has always been that dominant player. And in my opinion, he's the best receiver on that team. And in my opinion, I really feel like he could be – I could see there's an outside shot at him finishing wide receiver number 1 this year.
Getting back to and Dave Gerzak, the Dizzle, chiming in right now. He said it seems kind of odd that we're seeing all this Gabriel Davis hype, and he's getting bigger, he's getting stronger. Obviously, we saw the big playoff game against Kansas City last year. Are you worried about Stephon Diggs falling off at all this year, David, with a big step forward for Gabe Davis?
No, I mean, I'm a big Gabe Davis guy. I have a good amount of exposure for him. But, I mean, Diggs is as error-proof, in my opinion, as you're going to find in fantasy football. I just think he's the safest bet with the highest upside that's probably located anywhere in the first round. I just think after the top 3, it's really hard not to say Diggs is your guy. I mean, Josh Allen's a stud. The only fail in Stephon Diggs is Josh Allen getting hurt. I mean, he's going to pepper him with targets. Last year was just like a weird year when it comes to the missed opportunities that he had. So I really feel like this is the year that Diggs takes, the big time step. And if he would have fell to me, I would have taken him. It's really hard for me to ever pass him at the end of the first round. But I really feel like he could be he's going to finish above Cooper Kupp this year, in my opinion.
Diggs is. Okay. All right. I like it. And his quarterback does not have any elbow issues.
Out of the top 3 that are there right now, I think Cooper Kupp is the one that's by far the most vulnerable.
We have a situation here with Team 6 and Team 12 both starting off their draft with 3 straight receivers. In fact, Team 12 starting off with 4 straight receivers in this format tonight. Terp, if you were one of those teams loading up at one position, how desperate do you become when it gets to be not even the mid-rounds, but prior to the mid-rounds, where you have to load up on running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks at this point? Have you ever started off a draft heavy at one position rather than, kind of being a balanced team?
I try to be as balanced as possible let me make my pick real quick. Hold on one
second. Terp's on the clock here right now at the 4:04. Eckler.
It's pretty much down to 3 guys. It's pretty much either going to be Breece Hall and just solidify the running back room, or one of the tight ends. I'm just not a tight end early guy. I'm probably going to regret this, but I will take Breece Hall. And I'm pretty much set at running back, and I feel like people are going to start reaching for guys that they shouldn't coming up. So, yeah, I'm happy so far.
Yeah,
and I don't have any Breece Hall yet, so I wanted to add a piece to him to the portfolio.
I've been getting Breece Hall a lot in the late third, early 4th round. I'm happy with it. I think he could. I wouldn't say league winner, but definitely giving me a head up on the competition. What's interesting here is Dalton Schultz ends up going ahead of George Kittle once again. Now, by ADP, Schultz is a 406 and Kittle is a 401. Terp, as we get closer and closer to Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, obviously the FFPC main event live drafts popping off starting this Friday. Are we going to see Schultz permanently move ahead of George Kittle in the pecking order of the ADP, in your opinion?
I think so. I mean, it's not for me, but there's really no targets. There's really plenty of targets that are opportunities there in Dallas right now. I mean, they have CeeDee Lamb. They haven't added anybody. Gallup's not going to be ready. Washington's hurt. Tolbert's a rookie. You don't know anything with him. You're going to get some preseason hype, but I mean, you can't count on him. So the question comes in, is Dalton Schultz good enough to get all the attention of the offense outside of CeeDee Lamb? I say no, but to me, I would take Waller or Kittle over him. Mm-hmm. I just feel like their offense is a little more safer, especially Waller. I mean, Waller with Derek Carr, with Adams and Renfro taking up all that opportunity. I feel like Waller could be running down the field by himself against linebackers and safeties, and you can't ask for a better matchup.
Dalton Schultz going off the board as tight end 4 ahead of both Darren Waller and George Kittle. We just talked about Kittle, who just goes off the board here now at the 409. Darren Waller falls tonight to the 407. His ADP, according to Fantasy Mojo, is the 307. Terp, when you see something like this, where Dalton Schultz ended up going at the 403, but Waller slips almost a full round, George Kittle slipping a half round. Does this do anything to the way you are thinking about tight ends in this draft, knowing now that we have the better part of 4 rounds of data on the 11 owners you're going up against here and knowing how they're treating tight ends? Does that change the way that you approach the position?
If anything, it just pushes tight ends down even more. I mean, Team 4 and Team 6 have outstanding drafts so far. They got guys at, very good values with Jones and then Waller. What it does to a tight end for me, looking what happened after Breece Hall, I mean, I knew Waller was going to go. I knew Kittle was going to go. And so far, it's been quarterbacks and running backs. For somebody who has one receiver like myself, I can't ask for a better situation right now. Hopefully it continues. These guys are getting pushed up. Montgomery get pushed up. Zeke, this is where he's supposed to go, but I don't think I'd take him in the 18th round. But, I mean, tight ends are going to be – the last couple drafts I've been doing, I got one Goddard share. I got one Kittle share. I don't have any of the top tight ends yet. I try to avoid them. I'm kind of sitting in the middle range with Cole Kmet and guys like that. We've talked about him on these shows before. That's kind of where my hot spot is, to try to find the next Mark Andrews of this year. I just feel like some of these guys are a little too expensive for my taste.
It's interesting as we're looking at the receivers here, and I don't know who's watching and who's drafting here, but Jalen Waddle, Terry McLaurin, obviously still on the board. Marquis Speedy Brown is still on the board, as well as Deontay Johnson. So these are all players that are usually off the board, by this point, and we're not seeing it right now. So obviously the receivers are falling a little bit tonight. Tight ends fell a little bit. I think it was kind of at the expense of running backs and Terp. You got to be sitting pretty right now, or feeling like you're sitting pretty, with not only Eckler falling to you at the 109, but DeAndre Swift, you get him at the 204. A lot of value falling in this draft. And then you get Breece Hall too. So this is a position that you're in right now. You can really afford to pound a lot of yellow, get a purple in here, maybe pepper in a quarterback if you want. But you have the opportunity here to really set up a dominant squad, given how you started the team and how the draft has fallen so far.
It's always risky to start with 2 running backs, because in most of these, what did Dave just say? Respect therapy.
He said you like a lot of guys that Dave likes, or Gerzak likes. So in other words, he wished that you guys would be in a draft together because it'd be perfect.
Maybe if I ever get to Kentucky, we can be in a draft
together. There you go.
You never know.
But Terp does Kentucky.
You never know. I keep looking at it. He's not on here tonight, but I keep looking at it. There's a chance.
And KFFSC, by the way, main events going on right now. Of course, if you want to draft live in Cincinnati or draft live in Louisville coming up later on in the month, KFFSC.com is your home for that. I'll be participating in it. Terp may or may not be participating in it. He's focused on his FFPC teams. He's focused on this draft right now. Jalen Waddle now goes off the board. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Rashad Bateman off the board now in the 5th round. So the receivers are starting to fall. Terp, with 3 running backs here in the first 4 rounds, when would you look to address that position coming up? Because obviously you want to hit receivers, tight ends, quarterback here coming up. But with 3 really good running backs here, at what point do you start looking back at the running back, making sure you're not ignoring the position?
I doubt that's going to be anytime soon, to be honest. Realistically, here comes the run on receivers. Exactly what I was hoping kind of didn't happen. But, I mean, let's see. I got one more to me.
Terp is on deck right now. He is 3 of the top 17 running backs. He has a top 14 receiver on his squad right now. No tight ends, no quarterbacks yet. And we are coming up on the 509. Terp is now on the clock. We've seen 7 receivers go off the board already in the 5th round. Terp, are you going to make it 8 or a different position?
This is a smash pick for me. We talked about the offense in Arizona, and I'm not really the craziest about it. But I haven't seen Marquis Brown this far in any draft so far. Did something happen that I missed? I don't think so.
I mean, his car might have been impounded, but I think that's.
I'm not really worried about that. But to me, this is a slam dunk pick. I have not seen him at the 509 in any draft I've done so far. So, yeah, I'll take my chances with him 100 times out of 100 with the big playability, especially in best ball. And with, Kyler, obviously, I mean, give me this 100 times out of 100.
Going by the the Fantasy Mojo here, the latest Marquis Brown has gone in this tournament over the last 5 days is right where Terp got him at the 509. The earliest he's actually gone is the 402. Settled in at the 411 as far as ADP goes. So you're looking at almost a full round of value for Marquis Brown here tonight. And then you're looking at Team 10 loading up. First team to go double tight end, Dalton Schultz in the 4th, TJ Hawkinson in the 5th. Terp, I know that you probably want to hit the receiver position again, but now with 7 tight ends going off the board, knowing that one team has already doubled up in tight ends, and knowing if you don't take one here at the 604, you're going to have to wait until the 709 to grab a tight end. How important does tight end become here for you in the 6th round?
It's not important. I mean, there's one guy that I would consider taking if all things fall considering. But I don't think I'm going to do it. There's 2 guys I have in mind right now, and actually neither of them. One of them you're not going to expect at all.
Okay.
And the other one is a little off the wall, but we'll see how these last couple picks fall in line. But, I mean, so far, there's been some great value falling. I mean, like I said, I don't have much Breece Hall, but making that pick, if you would have told me there was consideration for Marquis Brown at that pick. So if you're telling me that I can get both of them, I can't ask for, a better start so far. Hopefully it continues. Hopefully I don't screw it up on the way, but you never know.
Well, and that's it. I mean, like we kind of touched on this. We've danced around the topic, but, you can have a set plan going in. But when value falls to you, especially in a national tournament like this, you've got to take advantage. Maybe Cortland Sutton wasn't part of the plan. Maybe Breece Hall wasn't part of the plan. Maybe Marquis Brown wasn't part of the plan. But Terp, for you, when you see those guys available at those spots, the plan becomes, you throw up plan A and go with plan B, because this is a lot of value falling to, which could pay dividends coming up in, as the season gets older and deeper as you try to win this 200K.
1,000%. Okay, I'm on the clock right now. Here comes the surprise. Not many people are going to think that I'm going to make this pick, but I have 0 shares of Kyler Murray in any higher stakes leagues.
Mind blown. Mind absolutely blown.
I came in tonight with a little plan. It was to get Kyler Murray because I full fades are all very, very dangerous. This could bite me on a team that I really, really like. But there's a lot of guys who like this player and a lot of smart guys who are a lot smarter than me. And I feel like I've been getting burned with quarterbacks in drafts so far. So my pick in the 6th round will be Kyler Murray. So
Dave Terpoilli, who I thought was the biggest anti-Arizona Cardinals fan.
He was.
In the last couple of months of doing these drafts. Now we see you not only go with Marquis Brown in the 5th round, which I get it because he fell, but now Kyler Murray here in the 6th round. You do not like the Arizona Cardinals this year, yet you went Cardinal here in the 5th and 6th. Tell the listeners why it's important to not be set in your ways, be set in take guys totally off your board. Why it's important not to do that, because when value falls to you here, this could be a big thing for you.
I feel like in each draft you learn a lesson. The last couple of drafts I've been doing, the lesson I've learned is I need to get more exposure to the top quarterbacks in the league, because I've been waiting a little bit, trying to get a little too cute, and then getting stuck with, Justin Fields, who I like, but I don't want Justin Fields as my number 1 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, I've been down on the Arizona. Obviously, I've trashed him on every show we've been on. I've not had Kyler Murray in any draft so far, but you can't be set in your ways in these drafts. Like you said, Kyler Murray has the explosive upside. Whether I don't like him. Will I have him on my main event teams or, any of the bigger, football guys teams? Probably not. But I feel like it's a good thing to get exposure to a guy like this in an offense that I don't have much exposure to, because if this offense hits, I'm not winning anything. I have 1-2 teams with him. So I try to, 2 double tap quarterbacks in this league.
Oh, we're going to get to that in a second.
Wow.
But I think the big takeaway here is this is the equivalent of Robert Atkins seeing a couple of pastries on sale the next day in the bakery.
Nobody was expecting that.
For 59 cents a piece. Like, well, if they're going to be this cheap, I know I hate carbs, but I'm going to go after him here. And Terp is like, I know I hate cards, but I'm going to go after him here. And you get the hookup. And we've talked about this on your best ball tournament drafts. There's been times where, you're trying to build these, I don't want to call them synthetic stacks, but they're like stacks that you're getting later on in the draft. Now you're getting an elite one in Marquis Brown and Kyler Murray. Definitely super elite for the first month and a half of the season with no DeAndre Hopkins out on the field. So you get Brown and Murray. Let's talk about the two quarterbacks here, the two quarterback teams. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to team 3 tonight in the 3rd and 5th. And then in the 4th and 6th tonight, Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts to team 7. I know you don't like the build, but now what does this do for you, seeing all these quarterbacks go off the board? Now this is like saddle up and ride, right? Because you're going to get you feel like you're probably going to get a lot of value falling to you.
Those two teams are drawing dead. They will not win this league. I'd be very surprised. It's a 1%er. I don't understand what either team is doing, but the Kyler Murray pick looks even better now because quarterbacks, these guys double tapping quarterbacks are going to make quarterbacks go crazy here. So the same thing with Breece Hall and all those running backs going in order. I just don't understand how you take Herbert and Hurts with nobody with them. Obviously, you have options late, of course. But then you have Allen and Mahomes, same thing, nobody with them with one receiver, no tight end. 3 running backs, one of them being David Montgomery. I don't get it.
But then you see team 2, Chase, Higgins, and Burrow here. I mean, that's the way to build.
There's going to be a lot of good teams in this league. Team 1's having a good draft. Team 2's having a good draft. Team 4 is having a great draft. Team 6, they're getting a little crazy, but they need to start getting some running back soon, but still having a really good draft. Terry McLaurin in the 5th round is great value. Team Stephon Diggs and Pitt's team just got ruined by them 2 quarterbacks. There's a lot of good drafts in this league so far, and a lot of really bad ones.
What do you make of if you look at team 11 and 12, Terp? Team 11 starts off with 2 running backs, then pounds 4 receivers. Team 12, the exact opposite, starts off with 4 receivers and then pounds 2 running backs. How does that, like, if you're one of those 2 teams here and you see what the team next to you is doing, does that affect your draft strategy at all? Or are you just kind of like, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I'm going to keep doing it regardless of what team 11 or team 12 is doing?
It definitely affects it a little bit. Being at the end is a little tricky sometimes because you see runs happen and there's really nothing you can do about it. You're sitting there and you're just hoping that 1 second, I think I'm up soon. You're just hoping that, one of these guys fall to you that don't just like all this quarterback runs and tight end runs and all that stuff. Trey Lance, hold on 1 second. I'm just
Terp, by the way, just ladies and gentlemen, to bring you up to speed on this, we're now in the 7th round of this best ball tournament draft. Terp is picking at the 9 spot tonight. $125 entry. You can sign up for this draft at myffpc.com. The winner will take away a $200,000 grand prize pool, almost $2 million in this format as well. I beg your pardon, just over $1 million in this format. Sorry to screw that up. But Terp is picking 9th. He's already got 3 of the top 17 running backs off the board in Eckler, Swift, and Hall. He's pecked in a couple of receivers here, Cortland Sutton in the 3rd. He also got Marquis Brown here in the 5th round. And then to couple that with the hookup, the stack, whatever you want to call it, he gets Kyler Murray in the 6th round. If you've been paying attention to these FFPC Best Ball live coverage drafts we've had here on the YouTube channel, Terp has been getting quarterbacks later for the live broadcasted ones. Tonight, that doesn't happen. Kyler Murray and Marquis Brown is his stack in the 5 and 6 picks here, 5th and 6th round picks from the 9 spot. And now we're looking at Terp, 34 receivers off the board, 9 tight ends off the board. You're on the clock right now. I can't imagine you going with running back here. I would think this pick is probably a wide receiver or a tight end, right?
It is. I was hoping Dallas Goedert, snuck back here. He would have been a slam dunk at this position, but it was him or the guy that I'm going to be selecting, which is Adam Thielen. A lot of good press so far in Minnesota. them getting him a little more red zone targets. That offense is going to throw the ball a ton. To me, I mean, he's a guy that I'm trying to get a good amount of exposure to. So to me, it was an easy pick. And it just gives me, again, plenty of options coming up. I know tight end's still out there, but I have the quarterback, and I also have some other potential Murray stack options that could be coming around next if DeAndre Hopkins makes it as a
I wasn't going to say it, but
you can say it. I don't ever. If somebody wants to take him, they can take him. That's tough.
All right. So that's the question here. You go Thielen over Hopkins. And the 6-game suspension obviously played a role into this, but knowing that he was out for the first 6 weeks and knowing you get Thielen, ostensibly for the entire season, and knowing he's going to play a bigger role in that Minnesota Vikings pass offense with Kevin O'Connell running things there instead of Mike Zimmer, that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back and why Thielen made more sense there, right?
100%. I mean, Hopkins' suspension is definitely a big red flag, but I feel like I'm getting close to the point, especially with Murray, that he's into strong consideration. I mean, it seems like a bunch of these guys are starting to reach for players that really, this is the 7th, 8th, 9th round. There's a lot of dead zone guys in there that I don't care when they're available. They don't get taken. We talked about Miles Sanders on the show before. He just got selected. 7th round for Miles Sanders is just crazy for me. I mean, he's getting no press. Kenny Gainwell's getting all the positive press right now. And obviously Jalen Hurts is still there. So, yeah, some of these picks, Adam Thielen was a slam dunk for me, 709. And like I said, Hopkins was in consideration, but the suspension, finally just took its toll. And I passed on him. That doesn't mean if he doesn't come back that I won't consider him.
Terp, remind me and the viewers here, Team 10, CeeDee Lamb in the 2nd, Dalton Schultz in the 4th, and now Dak Prescott in the 7th round. Remind me and the viewers, you're not a big guy on breaking up stacks, right?
No, I don't understand why people do that. Like, I understand, like, if you're getting close, like, especially like with like a stack like that, like, why would another team take Dak Prescott? Unless they plan on building a Jalen Tolbert stack, like, very quickly after. But besides that, why?
Well, I mean, you still have Lamb and Schultz on that team, right?
That's what I'm saying. So you have the full stack with Dak. Why would another team take Dak? What benefit do they have?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, because some people will go out of their way, and we talked about people who will go out of their way to break up a stack, but you are definitely not of the same mind on that. You will not break up a stack just to break up a stack.
I wouldn't just break up a stack to break up a stack. I would take a player if he was like the last player in a tier. Like, Dak is probably one of the, him and Tom Brady are getting close to like that end tier before it gets a little uglier. So if I was desperate when I was sitting at like 1 or 12 or something like that, and I needed a quarterback and I didn't want the run to get me, I consider taking a player like that. Okay, I'm on the clock here.
3 receivers for Terp right now, 3 running backs. He's also got Kyler Murray. There are 10 tight ends off the board right now, 36 receivers off the board. I would imagine that the player that is going to be chosen here is probably either a wide receiver or a tight end. As I look, this is the 804 pick. I don't know, Terp, if you want to reach and get Freiermuth. There's some receivers out there. There's one in Las Vegas that you could potentially be taking a look at. I believe there is one in Cleveland still out there, too, if you want to grab some quote-unquote value there. But what are you thinking here at the 804?
DeAndre Hopkins is staring me in the face, but I'm not going to take him. I just feel like I have a better option later when it comes to this stack. Hunter Renfrow is going to be my pick. I just feel like, where's his downside? Derek Carr loves him. He can get open against anybody in the slot. They have Waller running down there, and Devontae Adams taking up, the number 1 corner. Hunter Renfrow is just as safe as you're going to find in this format. He's almost a guaranteed 10 to 15 every week. As my 4th receiver with 3 good running backs already, and obviously, Kyler Murray. I might regret this, championship rounds with DeAndre Hopkins, but I'm going to take my chances that another player that I like in Arizona that we've talked about numerous times falls back to me. So I'm good with the way this is felt. And I don't have any Renfrow yet, and he's a guy I've been trying to get more of. So I'm good with the way the draft's set up so far. And
Team 7, Terp. Justin Herbert in the 4th, Jalen Hurts in the 6th, now Trey Lance in the 8th.
I have no idea.
Well,
I wish I don't, no stacks, like no, just, sometimes I think in drafts like this, people enter them, and I could be totally wrong here and off base, but I think people enter these drafts just to screw them up, just to get wacky and just maybe take a lightning shot at one of these. But how are you going to win with the way this roster is constructed?
Let's rewind a little bit here. Let's say you don't take Kyler Murray here in the 6th round. You're seeing all these quarterbacks go. You're seeing team 3 with 2 of them. You're seeing team 7 now with 3 of them. Are you slamming the panic button now?
I'm definitely the way drafts have been going for me.
If you didn't have a quarterback at this point.
Yeah, with the way drafts have been going for me, if I was sitting in the 1 slot or the 12 slot, I'd be 100% panicking a little bit because, yeah, you have a very good start and everything's looking good, but without a top-notch quarterback or 2 or 3 good ones that can fill that role, you're setting yourself up for a nightmare when it comes to just finding somebody a week, because none of these guys at the end are secure. Daniel Jones had a terrible day at camp. I mean, Baker Mayfield, guys like that you're going to be drafted later.
Matt Ryan.
I mean, he's a little bit more secure, but
allegedly,
but like you really don't know, and like that's the fear when it comes to like waiting on QBs, because these guys who are 1-12 right now, they have a very good start.
Well, even team 11 too, right? I mean, team 11 is without a quarterback as well.
So they're sitting in there's Cole come in. I didn't like that. I was hoping he came back. But they're sitting without quarterbacks right now. And then now there's 2 guys, 3 guys. There's 1 guy with 3 and 2 guys with 2. That's a dangerous. I mean, there's not much left that's really you call elite.
Yeah, Dave Gerzak chiming in the chat right now. By the way, team 1 decides not to go with a quarterback. Instead goes with second tight end at the end of the 8th round and a third tight end to start off the 9th round. So 3 straight tight ends in 7, 8, 9 there. And the Dizzle chiming in. Baker Mayfield, Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz. That's what, and he makes light of it, but we will see, because now, Terp, if you're team 11 or team 12, you have to look at this like, okay, I had a plan going in. This plan is probably obsolete given that I'm on the end and 12 quarterbacks are off the board. And now I got to wait another 10 picks or 9 picks in team 11's case to try to get a quarterback to fall to me. You kind of got to revamp not only your 9th round pick, but maybe your 10th round pick too, to try to get 2 quarterbacks here in the top 15 rather than just 1.
100%. Because when it comes to like value falling, you might get like handcuffed and not be able to take him because you're fearful of what could happen at the quarterback position, because this guy just took 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the draft I did, I think it was Friday, guy took 4 quarterbacks in a row. So you're putting yourself in a very, very tough predicament if you just keep waiting, and then you might get too cute, and then you're stuck with Carson Wentz and Marcus Mariota and Matt Ryan, guys who aren't bringing much excitement to the table, and just hoping that they can get you enough to outweigh the Herberts and the Mahomes and the Jacksons and the Hurtses and the Burrows and the Kyler Murrays and all those guys. They're going to put up 25, 26 points.
Terp, yeah, Dave, we're seeing 15 now, 15 tight ends off the board here through 9.5 rounds. You are still sans tight end right now. Is this an imperative for you here to try to grab one at least, in the 9th or maybe the 10th before you let everybody else go here? Because I got to believe that in a tight end premium format, getting a top 15 or maybe a couple of top 20 guys is pretty important here, given the build you have thus far.
I definitely plan on getting one. It won't be here, but coming back will be very likely. I'll try to push one up unless one of these other guys fall. I just feel like right now all these tight ends are just reaches. These guys are just panicking and going up and getting guys that probably they shouldn't be. There's plenty of guys that are later that I could do a little 3-4 build with that could, I think, keep me, very, very competitive. The guy that I'm taking here is one of the guys I'm extremely, extremely high on. Wide receiver from Kansas City, Sky Moore, to me, as slam dunk as you're going to find right here. He's a guy I've been trying. I think I'm in the 20% range of exposure with him. I feel like he's going to be the highest, ranked receiver in Kansas City this year, not named Travis Kelce. So I'm ecstatic with that pick. The next pick, we'll see who falls. Will I take a tight end? These guys taking 3 tight ends. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'll push one up.
Well, and Team 11 here, and I don't want to reveal him on air, but I'm pretty sure I know who that is. Is got to have a decision here to make. Is he going to go quarterback, tight end? Is he going to go tight end, quarterback, tight end,
He
tight
definitely
end?
has a big decision.
Yeah, I mean, because for him to go a running back or receiver here with his next 2 picks is really putting himself behind the 8 ball. As
he's been playing in these leagues a really long time. This guy knows what he's doing.
Right, totally. And you may or may not have watched him draft this past Friday on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour.
Very talented player
in the football live on HSFF Hour Football Guys Players Championship. But he's already got 4 receivers. He's got 4 running backs. I'm really not seeing any need to eschew the quarterback or tight end position anymore. And there you go. He goes with Justin Fields there at the 9-11.
Makes total sense with Mooney. I mean, the way his roster's constructed, very, very smart way to do it.
And now, I mean, would you think there's a Zach Wilson pick in his future later on in the draft?
I could see that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he also has, tricky options like Wentz with Gibson, Daniel Jones with Barkley, Cousins with Dalvin Cook, in his range of outcomes.
Right. What do you
There's one player that I'm really hoping comes back. I'm not going to say his name out loud.
Okay,
yeah. Really no chance he's going to come back.
We don't need to jinx anything here on the show tonight, Dave. I'm trying to look at so Tony Pollard normally goes at the 702. He goes at the 802 tonight. That's about a full round of value there for Team 11. Team 12 ends up going here with a pair of quarterbacks, which plays right into Team 11 tonight. He has the golden opportunity
the panic
to draft the tight end because Carr and Tagovailoa go to Team 12 because of the market price and the way the market's setting it. 16 quarterbacks now off the board.
You're seeing the panic.
With just 9 rounds in. Kirk Cousins, the second pick here on the turn here for Team 11. So Fields and Cousins, pair of NFC North gunslingers. Team 10 goes with Nyheim Hines. And now, Terp, you're back up here. I don't know if you were skipping tight end on purpose there, but it paid off if you did, because after you took Sky Moore, we saw 5 quarterbacks go off the board, and you're going to have your pick of the litter at the 10:04.
I'm not taking a tight end. I just have a question for you because I don't have it up right in front of me. Can you tell me what's the latest Chase Edmonds has gone in these drafts?
Over the last 5 days, the latest Chase Edmonds has been the 9-12.
Wow.
So
Chase Edmonds will be my pick. I never expected him to come here.
We saw on the depth chart today, too, that was released by the Dolphins, that the co-starters at running back for Miami are indeed Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. So you're getting a starting running back here, running back 35 off the board at the 10:04 to go along with Eckler, Swift, and Breece Hall. And a pass-catching running back is that, too. A guy that, if you follow the money in Miami, that was the guy they paid the most for. And Chase Edmonds is the pick here for Terp. So as you look at your team now, Dave, 10 rounds in, how do you rate it so far as you are hitting the halfway point of this quest for $200,000?
It's as close to a 10 out of 10 as I can find. I couldn't be.
Even without a tight end?
Even without a tight end. I like, getting the bargain basements of tight ends. There's 2 guys that are still left on the board with another couple guys behind them that are perfectly okay with me. This is best ball. I don't got to start them every week.
Right.
So I feel like the next couple rounds, I'll probably mix in some tight ends. But to get 4 legit starting running backs through 9, 5 very solid, receivers. Obviously, Kyler Murray. I can't call him a stud quarterback because it's not my brand. But still, to get him and then see what happened after with all the craziness of the quarterbacks. I mean, I'd be feeling a lot different right now if I didn't take Kyler Murray. Things would be looking you're reacting a little bit more. Like the guys at 11 and 12, very good teams, but they're in a little bit of a reaction mode right now, taking 4 quarterbacks in their picks.
Which is the penalty.
A value like Chase Edmonds falling.
And it's sort of like the price you pay drafting on the end, right? I mean, you get obviously the 2 picks right in a row or quasi right in a row, but at the same time, you have to be wary of the runs, and the runs obviously hit hard here with not only the tight ends, but the quarterbacks as well. The quarterbacks obviously loading up at the ends of the end of round 9, the start of round 10 for team 11 and 12. But look at the tight ends at the other end of the board, with team 1 drafting 3 of them in a row in 7, 8, and 9. And then you had a mini tight end run started at the 901 through the 903, with team 1, 2, and 3 all going with tight ends there. So kind of an arms race at this point. And I would imagine, Terp, given your thoughts on tight end right now, knowing that you already have Kyler Murray and this deep squad, both at running back and receiver, you're probably feeling about as flexible as you can, even with only one quarterback and without a tight end, right?
There's a good case to be made that I might be done at running back. I mean,
yeah.
I have 4 guys that I probably will take one more, but I have 4 guys that legit I didn't expect to be. Swift falling where he fell, Eckler falling where he fell mostly. Hall was probably where he's supposed to go, but Chase Edmonds, this just from what you said, is the latest he's gone in any of these drafts.
Yeah.
Unless I missed some news in the last hour, to get him there, I couldn't pass up that value. Tight ends are obviously going to be a weak position for me, but I'm probably going to take one coming in the next 2 picks here coming up, and then just get a couple of them and hope one of the guys break out. There's plenty of guys that are, that have potential that are still left on the board, guys that I've drafted multiple times already. So I'm okay. I'd rather be drafting the position I am right now than drafting Ronald Jones.
You are watching live FFPC Best Ball Tournament coverage. Dave Terpoilli, Eric Balkman here. Dave drafting from the 9 spot tonight here. And if you want to participate in a draft like this going forward, make sure you're signing up at myffpc.com. It's only going to set you back $125, and you have the opportunity to win $200,000. We obviously also have the FFPC main event having an industry record for season-long fantasy football $1 million grand prize this year. The Football Guys Players Championship, just $350 to enter that. You win $500,000 there. And of course, Dynasty Startups, the Superflex 2 Best Ball Tournament, $35 to enter a $10,000 grand prize, and to close 12-team leagues going now up until the start of the NFL season over at myffpc.
Go get that $1 million.
That is the plan. Terp is going to be gunning.
You look at some of the guys that have won the last couple of years. I mean, we're talking about guys that got in with 2-3 different people.
Mm-hmm.
Put the money together and take your shot. $1 million is life-changing money. And you don't need 1,000 teams to get there.
Yeah, exactly. That's I would say that's the biggest point here, Terp. We are coming up on your pick here in the 11th round. 18 tight ends now off the board here. We have a total of 17 quarterbacks. You are now on deck with Team 8 on the clock. You have 4 top 35 running backs. You said maybe you would add another running back the rest of the way, but you might be done there. You already have 5 top 45 receivers on this squad as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what position you're thinking? Normally, I'd be able to pinpoint you here, but because your roster is pretty flexible, maybe with the exception of tight end, it's tough to figure out what you're thinking here.
I definitely will be taking a tight end here. I have a list of 4 that are in consideration. So I can get any one of the 4. It's just a question of who I think is going to make it back. I've been on this guy a ton. He's my number 1 drafted tight end so far. And I think over 200 drafts that I've done so far. Don't tell my wife. But Noah Fant will be my pick. I feel like Drew Lock will win the job. Him, a Denver guy, I feel like they'll unleash him a little bit more. They should have a positive game script being a terrible football team. So Noah Fant will be my first tight end off the board. Probably a couple here coming up.
Noah Fant, by the way, drafted right at his ADP by Terp tonight, 1109 in this contest. We saw people in the YouTube chat chiming in a couple of rounds ago saying Noah Fant should be your choice here. You wait a couple more rounds, you get him at ADP, and you have your starting tight end there. Obviously, you have the opportunity to add more tight ends as we go on. What's the sweet spot here for quarterbacks? Is it just Kyler Murray? I feel like you probably are going to add one more, right?
I probably will add one more. There's a chance I'll add 2 more. It's just a question of how everything falls into place. There's probably like 3 or 4 guys. I'd probably stop at 2. After that, I have no problem doing 3. I mean, I feel like this build, it gives me options to quarterback, obviously, with Kyler Murray. But if I can get 2 other guys that are clear-cut starters and maybe mix in a stack with them, it's always, a benefit to, with this format, especially because realistically, I'm going to probably take one more running back and I'll be done. there's a possibility if somebody falls, but with those 4 and, being, with all pass catching ability, every single one of them, and pretty much the lead dog, even Breece Hall, he might start off a little behind Carter, but he's too talented to get stuck.
Right.
So, I really feel like running back's a strength, and most of the drafts I've been doing lately, running back has been a little bit of a weakness, and I've been stacking piss and yellow, like they say. So this is a good feeling to get 4 guys that realistically I don't have any worry about. And, the receivers, Marquis Brown getting him where I got him. Thielen, I felt like it was good value. Renfro was a good value compared to where I've been seeing him go lately. I'm a huge Sky Moore guy. So far, very happy.
Team 12 right now, they lead off with 4 straight receivers, get the 3 running backs in J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, and then Ramondre Stevenson, followed by a couple of tight ends and a couple of quarterbacks. Terp, is that something that you would look at if for anybody who wants to, because there's so many people that avoid running backs at all costs, whether it be best ball or main event or football guys, where they hit the receivers hard early and often. Is this the type of approach you would have after you draft the 4 receivers, pound the running backs, get a couple of tight ends, maybe a quarterback or 2, because now 12 rounds in, Team 12 is only going to have those 4 receivers?
I really like what Team 12's done. I mean, they got kind of pushed into the ringer a little bit with the Knox Carr, Tua, Njoku picks. They kind of got stuck to where they didn't have a choice. They waited on both, and they got maybe a little too cute, with the top 7 picks, but most drafts don't go like this. So if you can, most drafts, you're going to get a little more value than they got. It just sucks because, like I said, Team 7 kind of screwed everything up. Team 3 has kind of screwed everything up a little bit with the Mahomes and Allen pick. And obviously Russell Wilson.
And only 2 receivers on that team too, by the way.
Only 2 receivers. I don't say what number 4. Some people might think what number 4 did is crazy. They have Wilson with Judy and they have Stafford with Kupp. He took the quarterbacks a little early, but to me, I like what they did a lot.
Yeah, I don't really. With that build right there, I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, you have 3 running backs, and I know Melvin Gordon is getting less and less pub lately. In fact, I've heard some people talking about he could be cut or traded, which I don't see, but anything's possible at this point. But already with 4 receivers, you get the 2 tight ends there in Kittle and Okawepa now. It makes sense. I mean, I could see what they're doing there. Team 4, I can see what they're doing. Team 3, I'm just not a good enough fantasy football player to understand what's going on there.
Can you sell me? I'll give you 30 seconds to sell me on Robert Tonyan.
Well,
because Evan Ingram was the guy I wanted. It's the first time this happened in this draft where I got bit.
So this is what I'll say.
Probably not going to take him no matter what you tell me, but
I'll just tell you this about Tonyan. He's ahead of his rehab. The Packers are looking for a go-to guy. Tonyan had a great season in 2020. He looked like he was on his way to have another really good season in 2021 till he tore his ACL. So there's a lot to like there, a lot of upside here. That's about the best I can do in 30 seconds, Turk.
You win.
Oh, how about that?
My first share of Robert Tonyan in the last probably 150 drafts.
And I'm trying to think what I saw on Tonyan up here.
If you're wrong, I'm going to find you. If this is the reason why this team doesn't win $200,000, I know where you live. Yes. I know where you'll be every September.
And I'm going to have to call on Robert Tonyan to protect me on this one. But
if anything's going wrong with Robert Tonyan in this thing, I need, not that it really matters, but I need to know these things.
I will say this for the Friday night family night. Mercedes Lewis was beating the vaunted Packers linebackers for touchdowns over the middle, and Mercedes Lewis is doing it.
That's not a good sign for
Robert. Well, maybe not for their defense, but it's a good sign for Robert Tonyan if Mercedes Lewis is able to do that. So
he's ahead of his rehab is all I need to hear.
Yeah,
that's a positive news. That's good enough for me.
Tight end 21, you get him at tight end 24 tonight. He goes on average at the 12-12. You get him at the 12-04. I mean, it makes sense. As far
with the way the team is constructed, it wasn't the pick I was looking for. No, I was looking for either Hooper or Evan Ingram, but I knew that it's a dangerous game to play, not getting a tight end. There's, like I said, there's still plenty of guys left that I would be happy as a 3rd and a 4th tight end. Am I thrilled about my tight end room? Definitely not, but
the
rest of my team I'm thrilled about, so we'll figure that part out.
What do you make, Terp, of the slide of Russell Gage? I mean, he's still, even after the signing of Julio Jones over the last 5 days in this format, was still being an early 10th round pick. He goes as a early to mid 12th round pick tonight. What do you make of Gage now in Tampa with the Julio Jones signing? How do we treat him as far as drafters go?
I don't understand it. I don't understand why he's fallen. I just think there's Chris Godwin, obviously he's back to practice, but I still think they're going to take him. He's not going to get out there and play 100% of the snaps week 1. If he does, he's Superman. But I think Russell Gage is going to have plenty of value early in the season. I think you're going to see Julio Jones play a little bit more inside, and I could see him taking snaps away because he looks bigger. He doesn't look like the same Julio Jones that he's looked at. He looks like he put on some muscle, weight, whatever you want to call it. And I don't see Julio Jones playing a ton of snaps. Like I said, Tom Brady went out and got Russell Gage. I'll sit on that island by myself. If you're giving me Russell Gage in a main event, the 10th round, I'll take him and take my chances and that he develops with Tom Brady and gets his trust and will be a very good fantasy player in the 10th round this year.
Terp, how do you balance it? And I think this is sort of lazy analysis, but I feel like we as fantasy players, when we're drafting in these best ball tournaments, we look at the first few rounds. I want high ceiling and high floor. Then maybe the next few rounds after that is all about maybe medium ceiling, but definitely high floor. At what point does it switch to low floor, high ceiling type picks?
I feel like you're getting close to that point. I mean, you want to get guys, depending on your builds of your team. But like right now, I'll use an example. I'll take an upside guy of a Jahan Dotson over in best ball over a Jacoby Myers. I'm not saying Jacoby Myers is a terrible fantasy player or anything like that, but his ceiling is. You haven't heard a good report out of New England yet. What makes you think that Jacoby Myers is not going to get passed by Devontae Parker?
Right.
What makes you think that Hunter Henry is not going to take the next step? Or maybe Jonnu Smith comes out of nowhere. They still have money invested in him. He's been a very quiet name, but in camp so far, he's got a lot of targets. He had a terrible season last year. He was awful. But I just feel like upside, especially in these, you're looking for home run hitters. And obviously, you want to get a guy with a good floor, but you get a guy like Russell Gage in the 12th round. Jesus.
Yeah. That was a really good pick.
That was a great pick.
It was a great pick.
The value in this draft has been insane. And of all the drafts we've done here, and I've done just in general, I mean, some of these guys are falling. Like, I can't – Chase Edmonds, I'm still like – you rarely see you're the guy. Like, I mean, how many drafts that you've been doing so far that you see you're the guy that has the latest Chase Edmonds share? I'm a big Chase Edmonds fan this year. To get him in the 10th round, sign me up.
Yeah, and it's weird because like we look at your draft and I think you got great value on Eckler, you got very good value on Swift. Then you went up and got your guy in Sutton. Breece Hall was about normal, but then Marquis Brown falls to you. Kyler Murray was the obvious hookup there. And then I feel like you got a couple of this is what I'm talking about with this high floor type players. Because I think Adam Thielen is high floor, potentially low ceiling. Hunter Renfrow, high floor, potentially low ceiling. And I feel like when you talk about that Jacoby Myers pick, if he was a little bit better, you could make the case for him not only going in the 10th round or 12th round here, but maybe a little bit higher. He just doesn't have the high floor that Thielen and Renfrow do.
He doesn't. And that's the issue when it comes in. And also the team you're on. Like Devontae Parker, I feel like brings you more than Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
You've seen the flash from Devontae Parker. You've seen the big play. Jacoby Myers isn't going to set the world. Hold on. I think I'm on the clock.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You are, it looks like you're on the on deck is according to what I'm looking at here, but you already have to bring everybody, all the viewers back up to speed on Terp's team here from the 9 spot. Kyler Murray is the quarterback. He's got Eckler, Swift, Breece Hall, Chase Edmonds at running back, Sutton, Marquis Brown, Thielen, Renfrow, Sky Moore are the receivers. And then he just added Noah Fant and Robert Tonyan in the last couple of rounds. Terp, you're on the clock. What are you thinking here, man?
This is an easy pick for me. I was going to take him the last round, but you sold me on Robert Tonyan. I'm hitting tight end again. This is the last of a tier for me. Brevin Jordan's a guy that I'm very, very high on this year. I'm ecstatic he fell back here. Again, I was never taking Robert Tonyan until you sold me on him. So thank you for that, because it got me the guy that I really wanted a whole round later. And obviously now it gets me 3 tight ends and I'm happy with the way it's set up. So Brevin Jordan is my pick.
Why was he your? I mean, I'm just looking at. I take that back. I think you got the next.
He was the next on the board.
No, there's one other guy I'm looking at out here that's still out there. When he gets chosen, I'll ask you about him. But as far as I beg your pardon, as far as tight ends go, unless I'm missing it, maybe I'm.
You're definitely missing it. He was the highest on the board. I mean, I'm not taking Logan Thomas or.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. He was the highest on the board. Brevin Jordan was the highest on the board. I was missing the guy I was talking about. So now you get Fant, Tunyon, Brevin Jordan. Is it safe to say you're done at tight end for this draft?
I'll probably take another flyer on one or two guys I like later, just to give myself, a good room. It's never going to be a great room, obviously, because I waited so long. But now it pretty much gives me plenty of options to do whatever I want the rest of the draft. I'm not like hamstrung in any position.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's late for Jalen Terpoilli. This draft has been crazy when it comes to value.
Well, but we're talking. I mean, like, you have to know when a team like Team 1 goes tight end in round 7, 8, 9. When a team like 3 has 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds. When a team like Team 7 has 3 quarterbacks in the first 8 rounds. You have to know that value is going to fall to you at some point. And now it's on you to try to strike while the iron's hot, right? To cash in on that value. Because if you don't, you're going to be left on the wayside by the teams that will cash in on the value in this form. And that's true of not just best ball, but, the FFPC main event, the Football Guys Players Championship as well, Terp, as well,
100%. I mean, value, you have to take advantage when value falls to you. And a lot of that has to do with how you construct your roster. If you get too cute, and take 5 receivers early, there is a chance that you could get a Amari Cooper in the 8th round. And he's staring at you, and you're like, well, if I don't take a running back here or a quarterback or a tight end, then what do I do? I'm going to take a 6th receiver, and you let Amari Cooper goes, and somebody who it fits perfectly with, that could put you in a detriment, especially if you're picking at the end of drafts.
And I've always been of the opinion, I used to be that guy loading up on receiver early, but then I would get to these, round 6 or 7 or 8 sometimes, and I'm seeing a top 35 guy staring at me in the face, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I already got 4 receivers on my team. When is
in best ball, you can get away with that stuff. And when you're drafting, in the main event, you can't just take 7 receivers before you take 2 running backs, or you got to start 4. So you're just going to play the Russian roulette every week when you have 7 guys who, obviously you're going to have the top guys, but you're going to have 3 or 4 guys who look the same for one spot. Good luck with that every week, because it never works out for you. So you can go ahead.
Tight end premium scoring like the FFPC here. Mm-hmm. Is Brevin Jordan the 2nd leading points getter among Texans pass catchers this year for FFPC scoring behind Brandon Cooks?
I say no. I say Nico Collins is
so
second.
It's but then it's Jordan.
But I don't think it's far off. I think Brevin Jordan could be this year's. I think he could be in top 10 tight ends this year.
Okay.
The opportunities there. They keep talking about Farrah Brown a little bit, but I might be. I like the Bears. That's been noted on this show before. Mm-hmm. But I also like the Texans. I really feel like they're just way undervalued in drafts. Even Brandon Cooks. I mean, we talk about target share 100 times. They're a bad team in a bad division. Outside of maybe Indianapolis, they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. They have no running back that really scares you. I'm on the clock.
Gummy Bear Dance, a.k.a. Dave Terpoilli, on the clock right now here with his 1404 selection. 3 tight ends on his roster, 1 quarterback, 4 running backs, 5 receivers. Dave Terpoilli, what are you doing here in the 14th round, man?
It's hard for me to ever pass this guy up in the draft. He's out of every draft I've done so far, I just looked today. Behind Travis Etienne, this is my number 1 owned player. I just love the player. I love the situation, the team, the Giants. Wandel Robinson, he's a perfect format, the perfect boom player for my roster construction. Like we talked about Renfrow and Thielen. I see a lot of big plays in his future. The size obviously is a little bit of a worry, but it seems like they're finding a way to get him the ball. He seems like a coach's favorite. And we all know so far Kenny Galladay has sucked.
That's true. Wandel Robinson, a pick for you in the 14th in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament. Would you shy away from him in the football guys and in the main event?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say shy away from him, but like he wouldn't be somebody I'm targeting a ton. I feel like he's a best ball type of format. It's just really, really difficult to be able to start him every week because it would all depend. I mean, he's a bench guy, and like it's crazy how much different best ball and redraft is.
Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at guys that you're just stacking and you keep going through all this. The same mentality doesn't. And that's a lot of people who play best ball. They run into that problem because they have the same mentality that they're doing 200 drafts with, and they're getting to the big money at the end, and they're drafting the same way, and it could put you in a big problem, especially with the zero running back guys who just love pounding receivers and then get stuck with Elijah Mitchell and Miles Sanders as your starter.
Right. Yeah. Talking about Team 6 in the YouTube chat is Dave Gladstone saying that Team 6 played quarterback chicken too long for his own good. I probably tend to agree with that. You're getting the 23rd quarterback off the board. Even a guy who loves waiting a quarterback in a single quarterback start format. I love waiting on quarterback. I don't know if I would have had the chutzpah to wait till the 14th round to draft Matt Ryan, but Terp, he gets Michael Pittman in the 30, pairs him with Matt Ryan here. He could have done worse, but certainly not an optimal strategy as far as you're concerned, right?
It's a dangerous strategy. It's a strategy that was made. I know this is a very, very bad thing to say in best ball leagues, but I'm probably drafting 4 quarterbacks. I mean,
this is interesting. This is interesting.
It's not something that is strongly recommended because most people say it kills your overall structure. But if Matt Ryan's your number 1, you got to find a way to get Carson Wentz with McLaren, and then DJ Chark probably with Goff. And then just throw in a Mariota or like a
Daniel Jones there with Tony or no?
Yeah, Daniel Jones I think is drafted.
Oh, was he really?
He got drafted.
Yeah, he's been drafted. Yes,
but you probably should have drafted Daniel Jones there, and then Matt Ryan. Not that it would be that much better, even though I like Daniel Jones this year. It's just a dangerous Russian roulette because that team is very, very good. But no quarterback. I mean, realistically, they only have 3 running backs too.
Yeah, I am.
I don't know. Now I'm looking at the team.
Team 6 is a really, really interesting squad because going through the first 8 rounds, 6 receivers, only 2 tight ends. You lock up the Bills running game, and then you get a piece of the Eagles backfield. But then you hit on receiver 2 more times in Rondale Moore and DJ Chark. I don't know if that's the approach I would have had, considering the quarterback issues that you need, and quite frankly, the running back issues. Terp, I think you'd agree with me. If you're going to pound receivers early, that's fine, but you better be pounding the running backs in the middle of the draft if you're going to avoid all those early guys.
Yeah, just drafted 3. I mean, it's a dangerous predicament. I don't know. It's just not something I'm doing. I mean, and you have the whole Buffalo backfield, which I get people's mentality on doing that. You just secure the whole backfield, but I don't know. Gainwell is realistically your second receiver, your second running back, and Matt Ryan is your starter. Your receivers are great. Your receivers lined up against anybody are second to none, but that team's going to be in trouble with those 2 positions, especially if Cook and Singletary just split all year and nobody takes that job.
Right, exactly. I mean, you almost have to count on an injury there.
Your upside's capped, and then you're hoping Gainwell turns into something. And the running backs right now are pretty ugly too, so it's not like you can really. There's like 1 running back that I like, but outside of that, the rest of these guys are just handcuffs and prayers right now.
Yeah, and obviously Waller and Goddard. I mean, you have to have those guys come through.
Of course, they have to be studs. Your receivers all have to be studs. You have to have Chase, Cup, and. You have to have a Chase Cup and who's the other guy last year? Debo. You have to have 2 of those 3 guys this year's in that rotation to be. Let's see.
Jamal Williams is added onto Team 6 here as his number 4. I actually like that pick quite a bit there for his squad.
He just pretty much has to pound handcuffs. The rest of his draft that used to be quarterbacks and running backs. If he takes anything else, I'd be very questionable of it.
Terp, you are coming up. You are on deck here. You obviously went with the Kentucky Wildcat rookie and Wandel Robinson the last round here in round 14. We're coming up on round 15. Still got a handsome stable, a very deep stable of receivers with 6 of them. You already have 3 tight ends. You're looking at 4 running backs, but bear in mind that 3 of those running backs, viewers, were drafted in the first 4 rounds tonight. Kyler Murray, your lone quarterback. We are looking at 24, I believe, 24 quarterbacks off the board. Terp, it is now on you after Team 8 goes Logan Thomas. What are you going to go with here?
I'm going to take my 5th and final running back. I'm buying into the hype in Kansas City. Every positive press that I see, this could be, I think his name's Darwin Thompson from a couple years ago, but it's not like the guys ahead of him are like that much better. The rookie out of Rutgers, Isaiah Pacheco, I think is his name. I'm terrible pronunciation.
Pacheco, I don't know.
He will be my selection here, my final running back of the draft. I feel like that's a solid 5. You know, he has the upside with the other 4 who we already talked about them. The rest of the draft will be pretty much quarterbacks. And I'm going to try to mix in some stacks with them. There's a couple that I like. And yeah, I mean, I'm very, very happy with that pick. There was a couple other guys I thought about, but running backs are kind of getting a little ugly, and a lot of these guys are going to be pounding a ton with upside. So I like what I've been hearing out of camp from him. He's running with the ones. I know that's, you know, we got to see when the pads come on the preseason. Let's see if he's the same player. Can he pick up the blitz?
Yeah.
But I'm buying into the hype a little bit. And I feel like with this structure that I have, he fits it perfectly.
And you're not the only one. I mean, we're seeing plenty of really talented high-stakes drafters. You know, this is a guy who wasn't even be picked in the main event in the Football Guys Players Championship in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament just a few weeks back. And now all of a sudden, you know, he starts getting worked in with the ones on a team that really, quite frankly, is not set at running back. And then he's returning kicks. Now we hear he's working in the slot as well. So I think this is all good, you know, good news for Isaiah Pacheco. He has been drafted as high as the 1401. He's got an ADP of the 1702 the last 5 rounds, and obviously that's climbing right now. So it's no surprise. I mean, Terp, if you wanted him, you probably did need to take him in the 15th round. Not quite sure he would have made it back to you in the 16th. He definitely would not made it back to you in the 17th round. So Pacheco makes a lot of sense there. I want to fix the draft board here a little bit. There was one player I wanted to ask you about. Let's talk about this. And I think, you know what? I'm going to hold off because he hasn't been picked yet. And we'll talk about him when he does get picked. But Terp, you said that you are probably done with tight end now in this draft.
I wouldn't say done. There's an upside guy or 2 that I like later that I'm really considering. But my next couple picks, I have 5 rounds left. It looks like 5. So I'm probably going to mix in another tight end, 2 quarterbacks, 2 receivers. Will probably be the Romeo. There you go.
All right. So that's the player I wanted.
He was definitely in the consideration. It's definitely a good pick right there. I don't mind that at all. Actually.
So we'll talk about Packers receivers in a little bit here, but Terp, you're up again. You said you're probably done at running back. You might look at another tight end. Still only the one quarterback with Kyler Murray, and obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 receivers on your squad, including 2 rookies. So you have the unknown upside with those players. Terp, you're on the clock. What is the pick going to be here at the 1604?
I'm going to take Robbie Anderson. I feel like he's the best guy left. I like what they're doing in Carolina. I feel like he's the clear number 2. It gives me some options if I decide to go that way, quarterback late. There's still a couple quarterbacks that I like that are still on the board that I'm probably going to consider coming up here. But it gives me the option late with a stacking option. I don't know if I'll go that way. But, yeah, I mean, Robbie Anderson is definitely a safe guy. I mean, there's talks of him retiring, which is always a worry because he's clearly a head case. But as a wide receiver 2 in that offense with DJ Moore getting all the, you know, attention, he's the safest option in Carolina, who I I'm a big fan of Baker Mayfield. We've talked about this on the show before. I think the Carolina Panthers are very close to a playoff team, if not a playoff team with Baker Mayfield. I think they're better than the Saints. Obviously, Jameis Winston's injury, we have to hear it back today, but everybody's saying he's okay. But I just something about Carolina this year I like, and Robbie Anderson's definitely one of those guys. And there's actually a couple other receivers a little later that might be in consideration if things go as planned.
It's interesting too because I was like I was ready to say, oh, Terp, that's what a reach that wasn't Robbie Anderson. He actually has an ADP over the last 5 days in this tournament at the 1602, so he was a value for you. So it makes a lot of sense for Anderson there. And now with Baker Mayfield throwing on the rock there, and we don't know. I mean, we've heard puff pieces, and I guess I don't know that they're puff pieces. I'm just kind of
he's the starter
with Terrace Marshall, but Robbie Anderson. It's weird because this is a dude that a month and a half, 2 months ago was considering retirement, and now all of a sudden he's back on our radars. My radar as well too. And you grab him here in the 16th round. Let's talk a little bit about the Dobbs Christian Watson thing. So Watson goes at the 1502. Romeo Dobbs ends up going all the way at the 1602. Watson is recovering from arthroscopic knee surgery right now. I saw a video from him at practice today, and it looks like he's still with the rehab group, which is usually the next step before, with the Packers, the next step before you go back on the field. So I got to believe he's probably pretty close. It looked like the drills he was doing, his knee looked good. He was giving it pretty hard, wasn't testing it all. He was going hard. But at that point, I mean, Terp, with what Dobbs is showing us in the preseason so far, I mean, wouldn't he make a stronger pick than Christian Watson in this tournament?
100%. I mean, Watson has the higher draft pedigree, obviously, but I mean, he's way behind. And Aaron Rodgers will throw to whoever Aaron Rodgers wants to throw to. He's not going to in any way throw it to a guy just because he got drafted higher.
Right.
He trusts who he trusts. And whether it's Alan Lazard, we know we don't like him.
You don't like him. You don't.
I don't like him at all.
I will like.
I love when they show the game they had. I think it was Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
He beat Jair Alexander for that touchdown.
That was a good play by Lazard.
It was a great play.
Yeah.
Right in the end zone, why did you take Baker Mayfield there? I just why?
Yeah. Terp,
I swear people just torture me.
I'm just going to say,
when it comes to Baker Mayfield.
If we weren't broadcasting these drafts, there's no way that people would be snaking Baker Mayfield.
I mean, I realistically should have taken Baker Mayfield where I took Robbie Anderson, but I thought there was a chance that he would make it back, but he didn't. So, wow.
I'm Grump checking in with the Isaiah Pacheco. He was in a Football Guys draft tonight, and he went in the 11th round. Terp gets him tonight here, much later than that, in the 15th round. So good value there. What do you make of Team 6 now? We talked about the quarterback situation that was facing him. He gets Matt Ryan, and maybe he was watching. He gets Matt Ryan to go with Michael Pittman. He gets Jared Goff to go with I thought he had DJ Chark. And then he gets Carson Wentz here in the last round, in this previous round, to go with Terry McLaurin. Kind of a nice little patchwork job at quarterback for this squad here, despite waiting until round 14 to take a quarterback turn. And by the way, don't answer that yet. You don't have to answer that yet because I know you're on the clock right now. You took Robbie Anderson last round. You're now on the clock at the 1709 pick. Another receiver? No, it's a quarterback here.
I don't really have a choice here. I really probably should have took the quarterback. I didn't think this run was going to happen right here. Got burned a little bit. It's probably the only thing I'm unhappy about this draft. So I'm now going to probably be forced to take another quarterback. I was hoping to get away with just two, but I don't think I can get away with Mariota as my number 2. So, especially I think he has a week 14 bye, I think. What is his bye? Week 14. So yeah, I'll probably have to add somebody coming up here. He really doesn't have any stackable options. If your name's not Kyle Pitts or London, I couldn't even tell you who the number 2 receiver is out there. Who is the number 2 receiver in Atlanta right now?
Alamandu
Zacchaeus. I'm not even going to try to say it.
Alameda Zacchaeus. Is that his
name? I love that guy. I love him as a player. He's a deep threat. Maybe I'll take him in the last round just for fun.
Yeah, no, they traded for Bryan Edwards, beg your pardon.
That's not saying much. I've been the biggest Bryan Edwards fan in the world.
And by the way, Edwards is hurt right now, but Olamide is the other guy.
guy.
They also have Kadero Hodge. They also have Auden Tate, who was on the Cincinnati Bengals for a few years. Go Knowles, Auden Tate, and then Demir Bird is on that squad as well. And then former Packer Geronimo Allison still collecting a paycheck right now in the NFL. But it looks like it's Zacchaeus or Edwards here. We'll see.
That's scary. That's definitely no stackable option.
Well, I mean, Kyle Pitts, obviously, and London are the two big pass catchers there. And Mariota is going to do some damage with his legs, which I think you can appreciate.
Yeah, I think Mariota's fine. And you just hope with like a build like this that Mariota starts as many games as possible. The only fear is does he make it to week 13 when Kyler Murray's off? So I'm going to have to protect myself probably here coming up because I don't want to get burned. That's definitely one thing that has not worked out. I waited too long on quarterbacks. Kyler Murray.
I'm really well, and that could be, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm really surprised, and maybe it's because I'm living in Northeast Wisconsin right now. Sammy Watkins goes one round after Romeo Doubs. I don't understand why Doubs slipped as much as he did.
I don't understand either.
It's everything. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was talking about, some of the plays he's made. He's only seen some of the plays he's made in the preseason so far. He's only seen from guys like Jordy Nelson, guys like Greg Jennings, guys like Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb, and all these guys who have been really, really good receivers in the NFL. And what's always funny now is I see, and I'm probably guilty of this as well, but I see all these reports from all the pundits out there talking about like, how did everybody else let the Packers have Romeo Doubs in the 4th round? Like, I don't know. Why weren't you guys talking about this pre-draft? That
exactly. And at the end of the day, you haven't seen him in any preseason games yet. He's obviously having a great.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part is the only reason you're talking about him is because the whole world's talking about him is because I'm on the clock real quick.
And you can look at that real quick, Terp. But I will say this: iron sharpens iron, and Romeo Doubs is going up against maybe the best corner trio in the NFL, and Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, and Rasul Douglas. So that definitely helps as well. You go with the tight end here. Tell us about Greg Dolcich.
And he was the last line of guys that I was looking at. I feel like the potential is definitely there. I drafted him last night at same spot. I just feel like with the Tim Patrick loss, they're talking about possibly working him in the slot. He's an athletic guy. Alberto is no secure thing, even though I do like Alberto a lot. I just feel like as my 4th tight end, with the build that I have, he presents a ton of upside in an offense that I love this year in Denver. It's probably my favorite offense in all of the, outside the obvious ones that are going heavy with like the Bills, Chiefs, etc., the Chargers. So I'm done at tight end. I mean, my last 2 picks I'll mix in probably a quarterback here. There's only one guy that I really like. If not, I'll probably just, take Kenny Pickett and hope he's starting by week 13. There's also a possibility that I go with Desmond Ridder and then just lock up Atlanta. That's actually not a bad idea. It's not something that
Terp, who's the first rookie running back? Who's the first rookie quarterback to start a game this season? Is it Pickett?
I would say Pickett has got terrible reviews in camp.
Right.
I would probably say Pickett because the guys above him are just bad. Mason Rudolph he's never been anything in this league. Mitchell Trubisky, outside of that one really good year, Bears fans thought they had the next Joe Montana, and then how'd that work out for him?
Yeah, not great.
I say him. I think there's an outside chance of Sam Howell in Washington because Carson Wentz, who knows with him? I've always been a Carson Wentz fan. Love the player. But
Team 6, by the way, Terp has fallen into a stack here, obviously getting Pittman early and then Matt Ryan and now Paris Campbell late. If you are, is there value in that Colt stack there of Campbell, Ryan, and Pittman? Obviously, the only people who are building it are the people drafting Pittman early. And I think, Ryan and Campbell are just sort of like, if you fall into them, you fall into them.
100%. Team 1 and Team 6 waited on QBs, and then they filled it out very, very well with stacks. Team 1 with Lawrence, Kirk, Mills with Collins, Wilson with Wilson. I can't complain about that at all, especially the way they started getting those tight ends and kind of starting that run. They had a couple guys that fall back to them. Team 1's had a very solid draft before. Same thing with 6. I mean, we talked about it when they took Matt Ryan, who they were going to take after. And they've taken every player that we've talked about, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz. And is there a possibility that all those guys blow up? Of course. But if they are just a couple points better, then if they're starters for 17 games, 16 games, whatever it is, those teams are going to be definitely in the running because they're stacked up top. Except Team 6 with that running back room. I still don't know what they're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the thing is like you're chasing running backs at this point when you don't take one until round 9. I mean, yeah, you get the Bills ground game. You get Kenneth Gainwell, part of the Eagles, and the Jamal Williams thing got rave reviews in the YouTube chat. I like that pick as well. Makes a lot of sense. But
why Paris Campbell?
Well, the Paris Campbell thing because of the Matt Ryan.
I get that,
but I wouldn't look any further than the surface on that, Terp. I think that's what it is. Like, I'm not saying it was a smart pick, but I think the rationale.
I understand, the stack, but Paris Campbell is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9th receiver, I think.
Yep.
You better hope Kenny Gainwell is a star, because if Kenny Gainwell's not a star, and like we talked about, Buffalo splits carries,
or one of the Bills running backs gets hurt, right?
Yeah, one of the Bills running backs gets hurt, but even if one of the Bills running back gets hurt, there's no guarantee that they're going to just hand them the job.
It's a good point. I mean, Zach Moss is still there. Didn't they signed Duke Johnson too, right? Duke Johnson.
They still have Duke Johnson, Zach Moss, and they're not a running team. They're not. People say, oh, they're going to play a lot of, formations this year where they're going to run the ball more, but that's no guarantee. And even if they do, I could see more of these like Zach Mosses and Duke Johnsons getting. If Singletary and Cook go down, if that happens, this team's drawing dead.
Yeah, drawing dead. And I think they know that at this point. By the way, Eric B in the chat room, by the way, we got into this great Isaiah Pacheco discussion in the YouTube chat. That's why you show up live for these people. It's great stuff that there's thoughts of jerseys being shipped, Isaiah Pacheco jerseys being shipped across state lines to the Isaiah Pacheco stands in there right now. I love it. But the issue that we're bringing up right now, as Terp is on deck, the Dizzle Gerzak thinks that you still need more QBs, and you already said, like, look, I probably should have drafted one before Mariota to go with Kyler Murray. How big of a priority are quarterbacks here for you, Terp?
I think I have what I'm going to do in the quarterback room. It's probably going to get laughed at, but I just feel like right now, Jimmy G is the only guy that I would consider.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
over Pickett too, right?
Yeah, but like the thing with Pickett is he might not play a game this year. And if he doesn't play a game this year, then what happens?
Is there any thought to pairing Mariota with Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, as Dave Gladstone's pointing out?
You're a very smart guy, because that is what I'm doing.
Well, there you go.
Desmond Ridder will be my pick. The Atlanta room is not a room I'm excited about, but it's a room, like, if I take, like, all these quarterbacks that are left, Jimmy G, Pickett, Drew Lock, Jimmy G is the only guy that I could actually say, like, I think he's going to be a starter. But, like, there's a chance he doesn't or he gets cut and signs with where?
Yeah.
I hope he signs with Cleveland if Watson gets suspended for the year. I hope he doesn't sign with the Giants. That would be very bad for my fantasy teams.
Right. Yeah.
But where I feel like I lock up a room, it's a wasted pick. Of course it's a wasted pick. But
Terp, you as we're only 4 picks away here from you being on the clock for your final pick. You have the 3 quarterbacks. You said the only other quarterback you could see value in is Jimmy Garoppolo. You have 4 tight ends at this point. You said that you probably were done with running backs after the Pacheco pick in the 15th round. Does that mean by the process of elimination, you're looking for a high upside wide receiver in round 20?
1,000%. It will be a receiver. I'm trying to find somebody who's a little off the wall.
As you look at that, we can tell you that Team 10 is going into the 20th round with 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends for Team 11. And then Team 12 just made their 19th round pick in AJ Green. They will be looking to add 1 more player to the roster, 3 quarterbacks on their team and 2 tight ends on this squad. A lot of value falling tonight, especially with the tight ends falling. I would say the receivers fell quite a bit tonight. The running backs got pushed up a little bit. And then obviously when you look at, we said this several times tonight, Team 7 taking 3 quarterbacks in the first 8 rounds, Team 3 having 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds, an early double up on tight end coming in rounds 4 and 5 for Team 10. So we're seeing a lot of the and by the way, Team 1, tight end in round 7, 8, and 9 as well. Terp ends up going with 3 tight ends, 2 tonight in a row, but he waited until round 11 to draft them. He gets Fant, Tunyon, and Brevin Jordan there. Team 12 is in the showers here with his squad. He ends up going with 4 receivers early, only touches 4 receivers with his first 4 picks, only touches that position twice more with Kendrick Bourne and then AJ Green late. Terp, you are now on the clock for your final pick of the draft. Who is it going to be?
Final pick of the draft will be Mr. Jones from Chicago. I feel like he's going to be the number 2 guy with Fields. He's just an upside play. I'm a big Fields guy this year. I was thinking about throwing a stack in there with maybe a Brian Edwards or my boy OZ. I can't say his name, so I'm not even going to try.
Zacchaeus.
I thought about it, but I don't know. So I just took Jones. He's a guy that I've been targeting late. Byron Pringle's banged up already. They really don't have anybody at all.
And Velus Jones was a second-round pick this year, too.
He was a second-round pick. He's older, but what do I care about that? He's going to be on the field. He's going to play. He's getting positive reviews so far. I'm very excited to get him in the 20th round. He definitely is way more upside than a Randall Cobb.
Terp, of the 3 drafts that you have done on the FFPC YouTube channel for this tournament, is this your favorite one of the 3?
I would say yes, because
I know you like the second one quite a bit.
The second one I really liked a lot. I would say this beats that by a little bit because the value that I got in this second one, I feel like I just got my guys. A lot of my guys that I wanted fell to me. This one, I feel like I got a lot of value and also guys that I like and shares that I didn't have before of players that I like. I got my guy Sutton. I thought about just letting him, hopefully come back, but I feel like get as much as your guy as possible. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You don't want to get caught drafting players just because the ADP tells you to. So I would say I gave the other one an A-. I'm probably going to give this draft probably the same grade with just a little +1 at the end, just slightly above. The second quarterback thing worries me a bit, but I feel like I have a team. I have a team quarterback. There's no way. I can't say there's no way, but there's no way that somebody else is starting in Atlanta this year. So as a second option, I wasted a pick, but in Kyler Murray, we trust.
Terp, Isaiah Pacheco at this point, and I think this is probably the pick that got the most conversation in the YouTube chat tonight with you grabbing him in the 15th. It's really difficult for me to see him getting cut from Kansas City at this point. Do you feel like he's got a role on this team regardless of it?
No chance. Whether he puts the pads on, things get a little too crazy, too fast for him, it's always a possibility, but there's no way this player is getting cut. One of those 2 players between Ronald Jones and Jerick McKinnon likely won't make the team. I don't see him keeping 4, but all the positive press, he's playing with the ones. You don't see a 4-string guy playing with the ones, returning kicks. They clearly want to get him as much, playing out of the slot. I saw a little bit today. The potential's there, and I feel like with this build as my 5th guy, if he gets cut, I'm fine. But if he turns into the Chiefs starting running back, watch out.
If you like Pacheco, does that mean you're fading guys like Edwards-Helaire, Ronald Jones, Jerick McKinnon? Are you looking at any of those guys this year?
All 3 guys I have some shares of, but they're 3%, 4%. CH is probably my lowest owned guy because he's the most expensive. I mean, what is giving you the positivity of trusting him this year?
Right.
They brought in McKinnon back. They didn't have to do that. They brought in Ronald Jones. They're clearly giving the rookie, plenty of work. So they clearly don't love CEH. I don't think they really loved him since they drafted him because he hasn't been good at all. So
does that make him a buy then? Because everybody else is of that belief.
I don't think so. I don't see. Oh, there's just too many guys. It's definitely a running back room that I'm going to always take the cheapest. Jerick McKinnon was the cheapest for a while. He was the guy that I'm probably most overexposed to. I mean, it's not much, 5-6% type of situation, but I think Ronald Jones might get cut from this team.
Yeah, and the monetary investment into him certainly would make sense. That they could move on from him if they choose to do so. Terp, another solid draft tonight. I think you're getting some pretty good reviews in the YouTube chat. We'll post these boards on social media and the FFPC message boards later, so people can take a look at them. I don't know if we'll do this again. We're coming up on it. We're about a month away from the NFL season, but if we can make it happen, we'll probably make it happen. I know you're going to be drafting them. It's just a question.
I'll definitely be drafted, but I know main event season's coming up. Right. Once that starts live, you're pretty much going to be locked in your basement.
It's the way it goes. It's so
right around the corner.
My wife planned a weekend getaway this past Sunday to one of our friends' cabins in the.
Hopefully your Wi-Fi is good.
Well, and it was, but I was like saying to her, I'm like, honey, I can't right now. She's like, oh, okay, I understand. And so the weather was bad, so she's like, I'll reschedule it. She rescheduled it for Sunday, a Football Guys Draft-a-thon weekend. I'm like, that's even worse.
That's even worse. I literally will. I'll be peeing and monitoring drafts.
I said, you and the kids have a great time. I will be locked in my basement in my office.
Come down and say hi every once in a while, but that's about all you're going to get from me.
Bring me a sandwich like
Seriously,
every 12 hours
bring me some food. When I order food, just bring it down to me. I'll say thank you. I'll give you a kiss on the cheek. That'll be it for the day.
And we'll see you after Vegas. That's basically what it is.
Vegas is over. Whatever you need, I'm there.
I say that every year. I say that, and she takes full advantage. We will follow you on Twitter. Continue to follow you on Twitter, Dave, at Dave Terp. Congrats on a good draft. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see if we can squeeze another one of these in before the start of the season.
Have a good one, brother.
All right, Dave Terp, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Terpoilli, the FFPC Best Ball Analyst Extraordinaire. You saw him on the Pros versus Joe's broadcast. You see him on these FFPC Live Best Balls. Like I said, we'll try to squeeze one more in before the start of the season. But I'd say that's a coin flip right now based on our schedule here at the FFPC. Speaking of our schedule here at the FFPC, a $1 million grand prize up for grabs in the FFPC main event, a season-long fantasy football industry record. Jump in now. Live drafts start on Friday. Slow drafts already ongoing. Pop in whether you want to draft online or live with us out at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, coming up on the opening weekend of the NFL season. That's where we'll be. And then you can hang out and watch all the drafts out there too. Big Sunday viewing party at Beer Park at Paris Casino for the FFPC. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. Football Guys Players Championship drafts. You can probably log in and fill one up right now. No, last one has been filled for the rest of the night. But you can draft in those tomorrow. We have at least a half dozen, probably closer to a dozen of those going off every day. That's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. You're going to have to you rarely wait on a draft for the Football Guys Players Championship because they usually go off pretty quick after they fill up. They usually fill up pretty quick and then they go off. The FFPC Best Ball Tournament, that's what we covered tonight. $125 to get in, $200,000 grand prize. And then, of course, the Superflex Best Ball Tournament 2 is going on right now. $35 entry fee, a $10,000 grand prize. Dynasty startups rolling on through the end of August. And, of course, the closed 12-team leagues as well, if you want to pop in those and draft against 11 players instead of a bunch of people in the national tournament. Certainly better chance to win, but try for the life-changing money. The $1 million in the FFPC main event, the $500,000 in the Football Guys Players Championship, the $200,000 in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament. Of course, the $10,000 up for grabs in the Superflex. The Super Bracket Terminator also filling up with the FFPC. Check those out at myffpc.com. Thank you so much. We will be back live on Friday night. We'll have Michael Nazarick, the Fantasy Football Mastermind, joining Farrell Elliott and me. And I'm also working on another guest, maybe a twofer on Friday night. We'll see what if that happens. But for sure, Michael Nazarick on Friday night as we get you squared away for drafting season. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'd certainly appreciate it. And your weekend, won't start for a while, but your week will continue right now.